This film was produced in 1967 and portrays life in Muckamore Abbey Hospital at that time. Clearly, there have been a lot of changes in the last 2 decades, making this film of interest to patients, relatives and staff who knew or experienced the era. It should also be of interest to present-day students and professionals caring for people with a mental handicap.
Dr. T.W.H. Weir, Medical Superintendent at Muckamore Abbey.
The mentally handicapped are not mentally ill. They are lacking in mental development in varying degrees, which interferes with this capacity to learn and to cope with everyday problems of living like ordinary people. Because of this, they require help. Otherwise, they become an increasing burden to themselves and a problem to society. They are therefore handicapped. They require special care.
At one time, people like these could have no more care taken of them than to be locked away or put away. It was thought that nothing could be done for them, except to keep them out of trouble and to safeguard society from them.
Medical and psychological research and experience now shows that the mentally handicapped, rather than being persons to be shunned or ignored, have a definite contribution to make to society economically as well as socially if given the opportunity backed by required training. In 1948, the passing of the Northern Ireland Mental Health Act gave official recognition that mental illness and mental retardation were distinct conditions which require separate facilities for treatment and care, though both came within the mental health services. The Act introduced the new term, person requiring special care, to the mentally retarded or handicapped.
Towards the end of 1948, Dr. Weir and Mr. R.M. Greaves were given the task of funding the special care service. In October 1958, the new buildings at Muckamore Abbey were opened after 10 hectic years of planning and hard work for these 2 men. In January 1963, the Teachers' Training College was opened, and the new swimming pool in 1967.
None of this would have been possible had it not been for the pioneering work of the Medical Superintendent, Dr. Weir, and the Secretary, Mr. Greaves. Dr. Weir's vision, coupled with Mr. Greaves's administrative ability and drive, overcame all kinds of difficulties. This cooperation between administrator and doctor has been reflected throughout the service.
An assessment by Assistant Secretary Mrs. K.M.I. Wilson. But today, the Special Care Service is firmly established in Northern Ireland. In fact,
it can be said that Northern Ireland is in the forefront of provision of care for the mentally handicapped in that it adopted the principle of unified responsibility for their care, be they in the community or in hospital or residential conditions. It is held that the needs of the retarded are of a long-term form, in some instances of lifetime duration, and that it's important to ensure continuity of care regardless of the location or form of care.
Mr. Greaves explains that in Great Britain,
the responsibility for the residential side for mentally handicapped persons rests with regional hospital boards. The responsibility for administering the community services, including ascertainment and schools, rests with local authorities. And I think it is true to say that this dichotomy of functions in Great Britain has really bedeviled and slowed up the progress of the service for mentally handicapped persons in Great Britain.
Muckamore Abbey, the biggest single residential unit for the care of the mentally handicapped in Northern Ireland, is a good example of how this advanced service works. Though for each patient resident at a place like Muckamore Abbey, 2 others are receiving care in the community.
I think probably the best way to sum up our activities would be to say that everything is directed to implement the theme treatment through training.
The motto for the staff both outside and in Muckamore Abbey. All their work is guided by those 3 words. However limited it might be, all patients are encouraged to make fullest use of what ability they have. Everyone who can cope with the job inside the unit is given one. And those who are less handicapped are given training to enable them to return to employment in the community. And some live in hospitals as a halfway house to returning to the community, while others are able to return home. As part of the community service, there are 15 schools or training centres in the Eastern Special Care area. This allows children living at home to attend special care schools like this one. Though some of the teachers have to put up with old rented buildings not yet replaced by new ones. Teachers for all the special care schools in Northern Ireland are trained here at the Teachers' Training College, Muckamore Abbey.
And it may be interesting to say that this is the only college of its kind for special care teachers in the whole of the British Isles administered by a public authority.
The basic training is a full-time 2-year course, following at least a year's practical experience in the schools. Northern Ireland was the first part of the British Isles to have a 2-year course, and it is unique in that the Teachers' Training College is an integral part of the special care service and not a separate organisation. By September 1968, 120 teachers were trained here. They now form the major part of the teaching staff of all our special care schools, bringing the proportion of trained staff to over 90%. The accent in training is on the management and care of a group of retarded children, and on the development of individual potential and ability. Attention is also given to ways of improving the child's social behaviour in small class groups, in the larger school unit, and in the family and community at large.
For older patients, apart from those who have specific jobs to do at Muckamore Abbey, a comprehensive programme of training is arranged. The workshops are well equipped, and qualified instructors enable patients to make fullest use of their limited ability. Some 200 rugs are made every year. 75% of the stationery used by the Eastern Special Care Service is printed here. As well as such things as the Management Committee's annual report. The pottery section produces a number of delightful and attractive pieces. All the shoe repairs at Muckamore Abbey are looked after here. And leather work of a very high quality is turned out under expert guidance. All the dresses and overalls for Muckamore Abbey are made here. and the various designs and the materials used help to create something of a homely atmosphere. About 4,000 frocks are made every year by this group. Certain contract jobs are taken on for Northern Ireland factories, and these keep a number of patients happily engaged for some time. Even the less able can do a useful and satisfactory job, and one which gives them a sense of achievement. And made in these workshops are these useful pieces of furniture, which are eagerly bought by parents and friends of the patients at Muckamore Abbey. And indeed, there's a long waiting list for many of these articles. For the work, though of excellent quality, takes a handicapped person much longer to complete, compared with a person of average ability. All the patients over 16 receive cash awards for the work they do. And they're encouraged to save for small luxuries and extras, such as money for holidays. Almost £150 a week is paid out in amounts varying from 1 and 6pence to 30 shillings. Patients who are not capable of appreciating a cash award receive a voucher which may be exchanged at the tuck shop for sweets or lemonade. But the training given at Muckamore Abbey doesn't begin and end in the schools and workshops. A self-contained community in the heart of the Antrim countryside, it's rather like a small village. The patients are accommodated in 19 separate villas or bungalows, each being the home of approximately 40 to 50 patients, each with its own nursing staff. The nursing services are run by the matron, Miss A.C. Duncan, and the chief male nurse, Mr. N.J.W. Hill. They delegate duties in each villa to a small team under a sister or charge nurse. Patients of a similar age and disability are, wherever possible, kept together. And the nurses, after consultation with the medical officer attached to their villa, divide their patients into small groups. This makes a certain amount of individual attention possible. However, it's not always possible to recruit the staff required, so throwing extra strain on the existing nurses, leaving them with only limited time to devote to individuals. It is the nurses who are closest to the patients, bearing a heavy responsibility when looking after the mentally handicapped. The training of these nurses is therefore of great importance and is supervised by the matron. Muckamore Abbey is the only training school in Northern Ireland for special care nurses. 2 courses are available. A 3-year course leading to state registration as qualified nurses for the mentally subnormal. And a more practical and less academic course of 2 years leading to state enrollment.
We must keep the patient comfortable at all times. So the purpose of the blankets then, these bathing blankets, is to cover the patient while he's being bathed. We don't want him to lose any heat or lose exposure.
Close to the villas are these pleasant living quarters for the nurses and other resident staff of Muckamore Abbey. Recreational facilities are provided, with a good restaurant. And even the trainee nurse has a comfortable room to herself where she's allowed a certain amount of freedom and privacy. Special care nursing is a discipline and an art, demanding very definite qualities in the nurse, such as patience, understanding, and above all, the capacity to love. At Muckamore Abbey, each patient is recognized as an individual with his own personality and his own special disability. Living and sleeping accommodation are made as homely as possible. To a great extent, the nurse has to replace the parent of the mentally handicapped. And this is why a close relationship is built up, wherever possible, between the nurses and the parents or relatives of their patients. With such a variety of people and their multitude of different needs to be met, physically, mentally, and socially, the nurse's job is demanding, exciting, sometimes frustrating, but in the end, a satisfying one. Regular visiting days on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays see a large number of parents coming into Muckamore Abbey, and this gives a good opportunity for discussion between parent and nurse. And this is by no means the limit of contact between parents and Muckamore Abbey.
We get a great deal of voluntary assistance from many voluntary organisations and individuals in running our service. For example, the Muckamore Abbey Swimming Pool Trust was a voluntary organisation consisting of 5 people who got together to raise the money for providing a swimming pool at Muckamore Abbey when public funds weren't available. But we get the greatest help, I think, from parents' societies. Each of our schools has a parents group consisting of parents and friends who give us tremendous support in every way. They are now all affiliated to the National Society for Mentally Handicapped Children, which also cooperates very, very closely indeed with us. It really is impossible to estimate the assistance and help that parents groups and the National Society give us each year. Financially, it really runs into thousands of pounds.
The swimming pool, while a boon to those who are physically fit enough to enjoy it, is of great assistance to those patients whose disabilities are both mental and physical. Patients who find it hard to stand or walk find the water a pleasant medium for movement. And often limbs are brought back to life in the pool, which might otherwise have remained useless. Of course, patients are encouraged to take other exercise with special equipment provided by the physiotherapy department. One thing the visitor to Muckamore Abbey soon notices is the friendly atmosphere created by pleasant buildings and staff, and the absence of prison-like bars at the windows. However, there is one unit where such precautions are necessary. And this, ironically enough, is for young men whose mental handicap is of a mild form, are held for special training. It is here that they are first admitted, their ability assessed, and their training program determined. And even here, only one of the 2 sections has a high degree of security. In this section are the patients who require close supervision. In the other section of the unit are those patients who don't require such strict supervision. And some of the patients living in this open section go out daily to jobs in the neighborhood. And this unit has its own workshops for training those who show an aptitude with their hands. And skills learnt here often help a man on his return to the community. Just as in any village community, Muckamore Abbey has its own village hall, or recreational hall, as it's called here. Situated in the centre of the estate, it's at the heart of many of the activities of this particular village. It has an ample stage where live shows are given and where the patients present a pantomime each year. Also in this hall, religious services are held on Sundays, for both Roman Catholics and for Protestants. And it can also be used for indoor sports like basketball, for film shows, and for dances and other social activities. And it is here that the Muckamore radio relay station is also housed. It's run by the energetic entertainments officer, Mr. McMurtry, who puts out a very popular record request program every Monday to Friday at 11 in the morning. Muckamore Abbey provides facilities for the special care of the mentally handicapped of all ages and of both sexes. Some patients might stay here for the whole of their life. Others make such progress that they can return to their homes, either permanently or from time to time. Many, as a result of their training, are able to do a useful job in the community. And it's here that the employment officers and social workers have such a very important part to play in the special care service. And there is one particular benefit from the unified service for the mentally handicapped in Northern Ireland. Some patients who normally live at home are accepted on a temporary basis. This allows their family some respite from the tiring task of caring for a mentally retarded person at home. And this is a great help in times of illness or other family emergencies. And it can make it possible for a family to take a holiday away from home with comparative ease.
Apart from Muckamore Abbey, we have 4 small residential units. We have 15 schools or training centres in places as far apart as Downpatrick, Larne, Ballymena, Magherafelt and Lisburn, as well as Belfast, of course. We have nearly 800 of a staff. There we have about 900 people in residential units and 1,100 who attend these 15 schools from their own homes daily and for whom we provide most of the transport.
Another 1,000 patients live at home under informal supervision. Muckamore Abbey is a self-contained unit with its own central kitchens, which provide meals for all the villas. It has a shop, a canteen, and even its own firefighting service. There's also a laundry, which handles between 55 and 60,000 pieces of washing each week. The total cost of the service provided by the Eastern Special Care Management Committee now exceeds £1 million a year, and the cost of maintaining a patient in residential care was about £765 per annum during 1967, or slightly less than £15 per week. Of course, there have been some disappointments. The shortage of staff is one problem, and another is the shortage of space. Though the planning of Muckamore Abbey started in 1948, even 20 years later, all the buildings have not been completed. And the building of new schools to replace old rented buildings has been seriously slowed down because of restrictions on government spending.
Muckamore Abbey is a village community, or it has been described sometimes as a slowed-down community, where every person has their part to play.
The patients cannot help being slowed down. But Muckamore Abbey, with its associated community service and the whole special care service of Northern Ireland which they represent, are far from slow in their methods of treatment of the mentally handicapped. The success of these methods is reflected in the 314 patients discharged from approximately 800 resident at Muckamore during 1967. And of these, 289 were able to return home, while remaining under informal supervision. The happy faces in the band illustrate the general feeling and atmosphere of Muckamore Abbey. And this is the result of a team effort in which doctors, administrators, nurses, teachers, instructors, employment officers, and many others all play their part in the treatment through training program to bring happiness to the mentally handicapped of Northern Ireland.
When you try